Hello everyone, I'm Professor Lee of Dr. Anti-Aging and Herbal Medicine TV. Today is the second lecture on telomere aging treatment. It will be a total of 4 parts, and after telomere aging treatment is finished, the next lecture will be on senescent cell removal. Let's get started. According to clinical studies, telomere reduction varies greatly from person to person by up to 5 times. Although the exact relationship between telomere length and lifespan is still being studied, if telomeres decreases rapidly, cell aging will progress more quickly and lifespan will likely be shortened. If telomeres decrease 5 times faster, lifespan can be predicted to defer by about 20 years. That's a huge difference, right? Let me tell you about the common characteristic of people whose telomeres shorten faster than others. First of all, there are people who are genetically born with slightly shorter telomeres. And of course, they are shorter as they get older. To summarize the research results up to 2024 related to lifestyle habit, smoking shortens telomeres by increasing oxidative stress caused by harmful substances. Continuous excessive drinking can promote inflammatory responses and cause oxidative stress, which can shorten telomeres. Lack of exercise is related to telomere shortening, and obesity contributes to telomere shortening by causing chronic inflammation and increasing oxidative stress. Chronic stress can accelerate telomere shortening by increasing the level of stress hormone cortisol. A diet lacking in antioxidant nutrient or a high-fat, high-sugar diet is related to telomere shortening, and chronic lack of sleep can reduce telomere length by interfering with the cell repair process. And people who are frequently exposed to environmental pollution also have a faster rate of decline. Summary of common characteristics of people whose telomeres shorten quickly. Are there any of you who fit all of the above factors? If so, you should take good care of your telomeres from now on. If telomeres shorten quickly, senescent cells increase. When senescent cells increase, aging accelerates and chronic inflammation increases, making you prone to various diseases. Then, a vicious cycle begins in which telomeres decrease even faster and aging accelerates even more. 1. As telomeres shorten, nerve cell regeneration decreases, and Alzheimer's disease and Parkinson's disease occur more easily. 2. Blood vessel endothelial cell damage increases, and arteriosclerosis and cardiovascular disease increase. 3. As telomeres shorten, the ability of pancreatic beta cell to replicate decrease, making you prone to insulin secretion problems and type 2 diabetes. 4. Telomere shortening reduces liver cell regeneration ability and metabolic function and increase the risk of progression to liver fibrosis and liver cancer. 5. The relationship with telomere length is very complex. If telomeres become very short, the chromosome ends are not protected, which may increase the risk of cancer due to DNA damage and instability. On the other hand, long telomeres may increase the risk of cancer because they increase the opportunity for cell division, which increase the possibility of mutation accumulation. Telomeres, when they continue to shorten, aging occurs more quickly and diseases occur more easily. However, even if the length is normal, if they are damaged, the same problem occurs. It's not just that telomeres continue to shorten little by little every time DNA is replicated. Telomeres are much more sensitive to damage than other parts of DNA. Why is that? First of all, the ends of chromosomes where telomeres are located are particularly vulnerable to oxidative stress. Also, simple structures made up of simple DNA sequence repetition are vulnerable to external stimuli. In particular, guanine among the bases is very vulnerable to oxygen radical attack. Telomeres are structures in which guanine is continuously repeated, and studies have shown that telomeres are 2 to 10 times more susceptible to oxidative damage than other parts of DNA. If telomeres continue to shorten little by little every time DNA is replicated, senescent cells will gradually appear, but if telomeres are damaged in this way, it can have an immediate effect on cell function regardless of telomere length. So, senescent cells accumulate and the risk of cancer development is also higher. there are 4 tissues that are particularly sensitive to telomere damage. First, hematopoietic stem cells in the bone marrow that make blood must divide at a rapid rate, so they are sensitive to telomere damage. This can cause anemia, decreased immunity, etc. Second, nerve cells in neural tissue have limited ability to repair damage, so if telomeres are damaged, brain function declines rapidly, increasing the risk of neurodegenerative disease such as dementia. Third, skin and intestinal tissue have short regeneration cycles, so if telomere damage accumulates, tissue regeneration is impaired and aging is accelerated. Fourth, heart cells have very limited division, so telomere damage can have a significant impact on heart function, and it increases the risk of cardiovascular disease. However, our body cells have an amazing enzyme called telomerase that restores damaged or shortened telomeres to their original state within a few minutes. As you can see in the picture, telomerase binds to the shortened portion of a telomere and restores it to its original state. When a cell divides once, it's shortened by an average of 50 to 200 base pairs. However, telomerase creates new base pairs at a rate of 500 to 1000 base pairs per minute. Isn't that amazing? When telomeres are restored, cell returns to a state where they can divide healthily again, and senescent cells do not form. So, why is telomerase important? What does the action of this incredible enzyme mean for our health and life? First, it's the key to youth and longevity. When telomerase is activated, it can slow down telomere loss. This prevents cellular aging and offers the possibility of slowing down the aging process in humans. Technology that regulates telomerase has the potential to extend the human lifespan. Staying young and living a long life may no longer be science fiction. Second, it's also the key to treating disease. It may also be helpful in treating disease associated with aging, particularly Alzheimer's and Parkinson's, cardiovascular disease, diabetes, and liver disease. Based on how actively telomerase repair shortened or damaged telomere, cells in our body can be divided into 3 types. First, the cells with the lowest telomerase activity are the somatic cells that make up most of the organs in the body. You can think of them as having the genetic switch that activates telomerase almost turned up. Therefore, even if telomeres become short, they cannot be repaired, so they eventually turn into senescent cells over time and age. If the switch is constantly turned on, they'll eventually turn into cancer cells, so they are evolutionarily programmed to become senescent cells instead. Let me explain again while looking at the graph. Most somatic cells have a telomere that gets shorter and shorter, but since telomerase is not active, they continue to get shorter and eventually reach a limit. Senescent cells are created, age, and eventually die. In this case, practicing telomerase activation is not very helpful. This is because telomerase activity itself is low. Therefore, in this case, aging management should be done with preventive methods that do not damage telomere or shorten them quickly. However, cancer cells are an exception. The characteristic of a cancer cell is that they grow by repeating cell division indefinitely. Cancer cells cause mutation in the telomerase gene that was turned up and turn it back on, so even if the cells continue to divide, the telomeres do not get shorter. Therefore, they continue to grow. Second, there are adult stem cells. Although somatic cells are main cells in each organ of adult, some stem cells remain in each organ, and these are called adult stem cells. Even as we age, there is a need to regenerate tissues and extend the lifespan of cells when necessary, so these stem cells remain. Of course, they decrease somewhat as we age, but telomerase activity is still maintained. Third, there are germ cells. Ovum and sperm cells may decrease somewhat with age, but because they need to maintain reproductive function, telomerase activity remains at its highest. The telomere length of adult stem cells remaining in each organ decrease with age, but since they maintain telomerase activity, they do not age as quickly as somatic cells. the most important things in telomere aging treatment is to further strengthen the telomerase activity of other stem cells. Then, the telomere length is restored and cells can divide at least once more. Even if you are old now, adult stem cells remain in your bone marrow, fat, respiratory mucosa, intestinal mucosa, skin and hair follicle, brain, cartilage, muscle, liver, pancreas, kidney, etc. If the telomerase activity of these cells is further strengthened, and as a result, the cells divide even once to create new somatic cells, they can maintain useful function for several years to more than 10 years. We'll study this in part 3 and 4, so please do not miss it. Next time, in part 3, we'll learn about lifestyle, food, and nutrients that help maintain and extend telomere length. See you again next time.